In this video, I will be showing you how to make a block be able to detect both a nearby block and how to make a block be able to detect a nearby fluid. Hello everybody, my name is Christian Quick and welcome back to another video. So to get started, what we're going to do is we're going to take our dry cotton here and we're going to Control C and then I'm going to paste this. The reason I took this is because the settings is completely blank. We're going to be calling this high explosive. And then we're going to be calling the little name here high explosive. So now we have that. So now let us make our new Java class. And we're going to be calling this isBlockNearby. And then we're going to do the extends block. And then we're going to do constructor matching super. And like we did before, you would normally just type isBlock up. There doesn't seem to be here. But if I do something like on placed, it does work because this method does exist. But the one that we are doing is actually going to be our first custom method. So how methods generally work is you have your public. Static is something that I very commonly see. You're going to have your return type here. So whatever you are returning, it'll be there, and then you're going to have your method name. Make sure that it is sort of in this. It'll be sort of in this format where the first letter is lowercase and then every letter after that, as you can see on here. Now, our return type, we're not going to be returning void. We're going to be returning a Boolean, which simply means that it needs to return true or false. Now, when this was void, you'll notice that nothing came here. It just kind of just was okay. But then as soon as I type in the Boolean, it's going to say, hey, there's now an error. There is a missing return statement. So we're going to have a return statement, and then it is false. So if you forget about this, if you type in your condition, right, because this is a result, and this is a Boolean, meaning it's returning true or false, but we have to set a condition, and then we put this whole condition basically inside of an if statement because it is a condition. And inside of that condition, if that condition is met, will we then say, do this result? So we have, our method name in here, but we're going to be changing that in a second. So we have Boolean, and then we want to put in our custom name, which is isBlockNearby. And then it's going to say, hey, that's messed up. So we can say isBlockNearby, and it will update. So no troubles there so far. So to kick this method off, we're going to use something called an iterator. And inside of our iterator, we're going to be looking for the block position. And then we can say in distance. So that is the name of our variable. And we're going to say block position. And then we can say dot iterate. And then normally we need it says we need a block position start and a block position end. When it says block position, this is talking about a class that we are going to need. And the thing about this is, well, we don't have any methods in here. Well, because what happens is, if I try and said position.add, and then I go to put in a position, it's going to say, hey, there's no position in here. So you need to make sure that you know what your variables are going to be placed. I always would recommend, when you make a method, to put in the world. So this is the class name, and this is the variable name. And then obviously to get this position, we're going to need to say block position, and then we can say position. And suddenly this will be fine now. So what do we need from our position? We need how far in one direction, and then how far in the opposite direction. And these are in three-dimensional spaces. So let's say for the first one, we have -4, -4, -4, right? And then for the other one, we are going to need a position, an ending position. So we're going to say position.add, and then we're going to do the opposite direction. So we can say 4, 4, 4. And then we can put in dot iterator, and then a semicolon. And that should be everything in that. However, it did also cause another issue. And it caused it up here. It says, hey, there is a condition that this method requires some conditions, right? And that's why this is red. Let's finish this. So I'm just saying that so I'm aware, that you're aware that the red is up there. We'll fix in a second. I want to finish this statement up first, though. So this is basically checking the blocks in the distance, and then we're going to do another thing that I also rarely use called a do while loop. But let's just kind of see what it looks like for a moment. So we're going to say block position, call that. We're going to say do, and then we're going to set basically our two conditions. So do, and then we can say if not in distance dot has next, then we can say return false. And right now, this kind of looks okay, but my big problem with this is that this is returning false, and that this is returning false. You either want everything in here to return true and then end it with the false, or you want everything to be false and then end your statement with true. Because if everything is false, the method may be correct, but your method's not going to do anything until something returns true. So, if it is within distance, turn false, perfectly fine. And then what we can do inside of here is we can say block position equals, and then we can say in distance dot next, semicolon. Now, it says that there's also another error out here. So remember, I said it's called a do while loop. Do while loops require a while loop, so you're going to have to say while and then set a condition. So we're going to say if not world dot get block state, and then we can say the block position dot outside dot is of, and then we're going to set this block. Now, whatever we set this block to is going to be the block that it is looking for. Blocks dot, and then let's say fire, which technically counts as a block. Now, we now have our method, so if it is not in distance, it's going to return false, and otherwise, basically, while this is false, or while the false is false, make the statement true. It's a little bit on the confusing side, but let's fix our little other issue here. It says that there are other two conditions, and all you have to do is basically fill in your variable spaces. World position. Now, if you try and put something in the world here, and the world does not in here, you're either going to have to look for something like worldview that can extend world. If you don't have that, then you're going to have some pretty hard time. Luckily for you, I think in every single method that we're going to be doing is going to have the world file for blocks, because blocks exist in the world. That makes sense. World isn't going to necessarily become a problem until we get to item. But that is perfectly fine. And just like I said, outside of the world, you can basically pull anything. And just like how I showed you in the last video, you can pull statements from the world. We got the placer from something where the placer wasn't by using world.getClosestPlayer. Anyways, we have our block is nearby, and we are searching for fire within 4 blocks of any direction near this. It's going to do what? Well, you know me. We're going to say world.create explosion, and then we can say placer position.getX, position.getY, position.getZ. How strong do we want this? Let's just say 10, and then we can say the explosion type is a block. I know I am always generally using the explosions, but we are starting to get into conditions and variables, and eventually at some point we will start getting into the nitty-gritty, tedious types of variables, and you will start to be able to do what you want. But I need you to figure out how all of these action keys practically work first. So, with this in distance, let's try and see if basically this works. Before we do that, we're going to have to go into our mod blocks, and we're going to have to say isBlockNearby. Always remember to put all your stuff in the side, and once you have all that done, we've had previous tutorials on that, we can go into a world and get started. Alright, I'm going to be creating a new world because I am not destroying the beautiful world that I have. I just absolutely refuse. So let's make another beautiful world, and let's show some examples. So, oh, wow, this conveniently makes me think of my other world. Alright, anyways, let's get ourselves that high explosive that I have like here. We have the fire charge, and then we're also going to need I almost gave away a sneak peek in a minute. So, here we have our high explosive and a fire charge. So here we got some fire, and if we place it within our thing, boom. Another thing if I place the block and then I place the fire charge, nothing happens. Nothing happens. Why did nothing happen? It's within the distance. Well, nothing happened because the method is inside of the high explosive block and is waiting for the block to be placed. Since the block is already placed, it cannot use the onPlace method. There are some other methods that we'll get to, like the ticks, random ticks, update neighbor, some other stuff, but some of that will be later. But as of now, with the methods that we currently know, you're going to have to make sure that you place the block last. Another thing, so we said that it would be within 4 blocks, right? So this would be counted. Java starts at 0. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. This would not work. Oh, geez. That was not a good time. So this is our 5, and then this would be 4. So that would be the limit that you have. So we have, once again, so that's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this would not work. That will. So I like how that protected the fire, too. Lol. So keep that in mind. And then also, this is a block. What if I said I wanted it to be lava, a fluid? Because here's the thing. Let's go back into the code. So we now have this isBlockNearby. That's all good and dandy. Let's Control C, and then we're going to go down a little bit. We're going to Control V, and you cannot have 2 methods with the same exact variables. If I actually got rid of a variable, funny enough, you can actually have 2 things of the same name, but they have to have different variables inside. But for this case, we are going to be making a completely same variables, but we're going to make a completely new thing. We're going to say, I was going to say if liquid. Let's say if fluid nearby. And blocks dot, and then we would say, lava. So now that is lava, we can now basically take this, we can Control C, we can Control V, and then what we're going to do is we're going to make this 100, so it is extremely noticeably different. And then don't forget to change the method name here, so from isBlockNearby to isFluidNearby. Otherwise, you can tell because the thing will be orange. If it is gray, it's not being used. If it's yellow, it is being used. So once again, so just so you can see it if you didn't catch it. So if I say isBlockNearby, it's gray because it's not being used, and so that means that it won't work. And then isFluidNearby. I don't know if I explained that earlier in this video, so if I didn't, I explained it again. So it's very important. Now we can start the world and see how it works. So here we got some lava. We're going to have this lava be absolutely spilling out. So it's going to be spilling, and then there it is within a distance. So we place it, and look at that. Now the lava is seriously spilling. So this one happens to work in the way that we want it to. If you ever end up where it says that there is a condition that requires a fluid state, so this is blocks.lava, but sometimes it says, you can't use a block, you need a fluid, silly. So let's say I wanted to make this a technical fluid. So you can say fluids dot, and then lava is still a thing, but it says, hey, you've required a flowable fluid, and the only way you can fix this is not block state, but get fluid state. This does the same exact thing. The difference is basically how it's being called and how it's being used. Both in this example work, but if you ever notice there is a problem with, hey, I want you to return a fluid and you're giving me a block, this is how you would just get fluid state, returns fluid, get block state, returns a block. So with that in mind, that was definitely significantly different. This was our first custom method. Like I said, we're not going to be really seeing iterator or do while loops that often, but I do feel that this is a very good method to have. You've learned a brand new method, and with that new method, your Minecraft knowledge is increasing. You're getting able to do more things, and I am so happy for you. But if you have any questions, you can ask me down in the comments below. There are plenty of stuff that we're going to be working on, plenty more custom methods, but that's probably going to be all the jazz for this video. So thank you guys so much for watching, and without further ado,